The Heritage Museum Park is a historical campus comprised of the Ethnic Heritage Museum and Graham-Ginestra House. The Ethnic Heritage Museum, located inside a 6-room home from the late 1800s, celebrates the cultures and heritage of South Rockford, where Rockford began. South Rockford was home to Rockford's first buildings and mill, built in 1834 by Germanicus Kent, Thatcher Black, and Lewis Lemon. It contains the water power district, where the earliest factories were built, establishing Rockford as an industrial and manufacturing leader. Diverse individuals found opportunity here as well in South Rockford. An example is Freeman Graham, builder of the Graham-Ginestra House and a celebrated businessman. Opportunity encouraged waves of immigrating and migrating ethnic groups to find employment and live in South Rockford. These groups included African American, Hispanic and Latino, Irish, Italian, Lithuanian, and Polish communities. In the 1830s, the earliest of the Irish to the area were farmers and settled in what is known as Irish Grove. In 1845, the potato famine drove emigration from Ireland. This caused a large wave of Irish immigrants to flock to the Midwest for better opportunity. They were among the first ethnic groups to arrive to South Rockford. These Irish immigrants built the railroad that brought them from Chicago to the Kishwaukee Street platform. They also built the railroad and State Street bridges, the Water Power District Dam, and its factories. A large wave of Italian immigrants came to Rockford starting in the 1890s until the United States passed laws in 1921 and 24 that set quotas that greatly diminished subsequent immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe. Most of these Italian immigrants, especially those from Sicily and Southern Italy, came due to poverty. Because Italy had only been united for a few decades by the time they arrived, these Italians still strongly identified with the particular towns and regions they came from. They gathered together in specific neighborhoods and had their own social clubs. A uniting factor for Italians was St. Anthony of Padua Parish, the third Catholic parish in Rockford. It was established in 1909 expressly for Italians, with Father Marcassano as pastor. Marcassano Drive is named for him. Most Polish Americans are descended from the first wave, when millions of Poles fled the Polish districts of Germany, Russia, and Austria. This group is often called the Zachlebem, for bread immigrants, because most were peasants in Poland who did not own land and lacked basic subsistence. The more recent immigrants are well educated and hold white-collar jobs. Rockford's Polish influence originated in 1895 when Andrew Pielak became the first Pole to settle in Rockford with his family. Polish immigration was big enough by the time the Rockford Diocese was established in 1908 that a Polish parish was quickly formed by Bishop Muldoon in 1911. To this day, St. Stanislaus Kostka Church is an anchor of Rockford's Polish community, where the faithful are able to worship in their native language. For centuries, Lithuania has been known as a land of endless lush forests, interrupted only by rivers. As such, the traditional architecture in Lithuania is wooden. In most smaller towns, almost every building that was constructed before the 20th century was built of wood. Wooden churches, both Catholic and Orthodox, are common in villages. There are even wooden mosques and synagogues. Some of the wooden buildings are very elaborate, with intricate architectural details. Amber is said to be the symbol and the soul of the Lithuanian people. It is an integral part of its history and mythology. Amber is used in the Lithuanian language for all sorts of reasons: people's names, restaurants, hotels, festivals, and more. You'll find it mainly as jewelry, but you'll also see amber in pictures, souvenirs, sculptures, and even as art on furniture. Lewis Lemon, one of Rockford's first settlers and founders, arrived in 1834. Original proof of his freedom was not given to him until 1839, after he had finished paying Germanicus Kent for his freedom. Louis Lemon made his living by selling vegetables he raised. When he died in 1877, his interesting life was noted in the paper, and his funeral was attended by members of the Early Settlers Society. Most African Americans settled in South Rockford as a result of the two world wars. During the First World War, Rockford's Camp Grant trained the 365th Infantry Regiment of the 92nd Infantry Division, which was composed of African American soldiers. Many of these soldiers who trained here subsequently made Rockford their home. The next big wave of African Americans came as factory workers during World War II, as factories in Rockford worked round the clock to support the war effort. The first Mexicans came to Rockford in 1902. Some families came in 1909-1910 from Chihuahua because of Pancho Villa. Farm workers came in the 1930s and 40s. With many of the more recent immigrants, we now have a thriving Mexican-American culture here. While most of the Hispanic or Latino people in Rockford have Mexican heritage, and others from U.S. border areas where Spanish has been spoken for generations, there are people in Rockford from many other Hispanic countries. The Hispanic Gallery has so many artifacts from different countries that all cannot be shown at once, so many of the displays are on a rotating basis. In 2016, the Ethnic Heritage Museum purchased the adjacent Graham-Ginestra House. This 1857 Greek Revival Italianate architectural style house is on the National Register of Historic Places in Winnebago County. It is one of Rockford's first historic landmarks. The house represents the homestead of two prominent families of South Rockford, Freeman Graham Sr. and Leonard Ginestra. Therese Ginestra Schmelzer inherited this family home and opened it as a museum to preserve its unique history. Freeman Graham Sr., with his wife Julia and 5 children, moved from Connecticut to Beloit in 1855 and then to Rockford a year later. Once here, Freeman worked as a foreman and manager for Emerson Talcott and Company in the farm and agriculture implementation industry until he started his own business empire. In 1867, the Graham Cotton Mill was opened in the Water Power District and was well known for their award-winning seamless bags and batting. With the help of his 4 sons, the Grahams opened the Graham Paper Mill, followed by the Graham Distillery in 1876. The Graham Distillery was once located at the corner of South Main and Graham Street and was the first sour mash whiskey distillery in Illinois. In the 1880s, Freeman Sr. retired and sold Graham & Co. to his sons. In addition to their business interests, the Grahams were heavily involved in politics. Over the next couple of decades, Freeman Graham and his 2 sons served as 5th Ward aldermen, making large impacts on policy and infrastructure. They were also active Masons of the EFW Ellis Lodge. Unfortunately, shortly after his death in 1896, the cotton mill, paper mill, and match company dissolved. This left the distillery, now known as the Graham Brothers Distillery, as the remaining business of their once booming empire. Their whiskey was well known and enjoyed across the country until Prohibition, which forced the Grahams to close their doors in 1922. The daughter, Julia Graham Warner, inherited her parents' home in 1896 and sold it 30 years later to Leonard and Mary Ginestra. Leonard and Mary were born in Sambuca, Sicily in 1892. After 8 years of working and saving, their fathers saved enough money to send for their wives and children to sail to the United States, the land of opportunity. The families eventually came to Rockford, where Mary and Leo married and had 2 children, Therese and Lawrence. Like the Grahams, Leo was an entrepreneur and involved in politics. He even ran for 5th Ward alderman, but lost the race to his godfather, Jasper St. Angel. He was an auto mechanic, real estate assessor, and owned several properties, including a farm in Roscoe and the Blackhawk Mobile Home Park on South Main. Their Sicilian heritage was extremely important to them. Mary Ginestra would place a St. Joseph's altar in their parlor every March and a ceppo for Christmas. Traditional recipes were passed down through the generations, keeping a part of Sicily with them. Leo once described his feelings for the historic residence as, "When I come in through the door, this house just throws its arms around me." Less than 10 years later, it became a historic landmark. As each newcomer group gained in affluence, members tended to move out while a new group moved in. By 1989, a group of people passionate about their history, heritage, and Rockford decided to act to preserve and celebrate it. The Ethnic Heritage Museum was formed to celebrate the Irish, Italian, Polish, Lithuanian, African American, and Hispanic cultures. The addition of the Graham-Ginestra House in 2016 further preserved the history of this area. Through displays of early Rockford area maps, everyday artifacts, vintage clothing, and more, visitors of all ages can learn about old world customs and traditions. Historical photographs tell the stories of the earliest settlers who established factories near the old water power district and built their homes nearby. By comparing early with current lifestyles, the Heritage Museum Park strives to bridge the gap between yesterday and today, encouraging visitors to relive the past with a clear focus on Rockford's bright future.